the variable x. So we'll multiply x by 5. And the vocabulary word decreased means to make smaller, or in math we can subtract by 2. So again, the product of a number and 5 would be x times 5. In math, we'll normally put the number before the variable. So instead of x times 5, you can write it as 5 times x, or 5x. Decreased, again, we make smaller or subtract, and we're subtracting 2. So the answer would be 5x minus 2. Second question, and last question for the section. Twice the sum of a number and 3. Vocabulary words twice means to make bigger or double, or in terms of math, multiply by 2. The sum is a mathematical operation, which means the addition of. So we'll be adding a number, which again, we do not know the number, we can use the variable x. We'll be adding x to the number 3. Twice again would mean to double or multiply by 2. And we're going to multiply by 2 the sum. To make sure we get the sum first before we double, we'll put the sum inside parentheses. So the sum of a number, which again we can use a variable x, and we're taking the sum of x and 3. So the answer to the question would be 2 times, in parentheses, x plus 3. Title of the first section today is Combining Like Terms. To combine like terms in math, like terms will have the same variable and same exponent, or they could also be numbers without variables. First problem is 2x plus 5x. When you have like terms, and again like terms are the same variable with the same exponent or no exponent shown, you can add those together. 2x plus 5x. The coefficients or numbers in front of the variables, we'll add those together. 2 plus 5 would be 7. And the like term, the variable x, would stay the same. So the answer would be 7x. 2x plus 5x is 7x. Second question is 7y plus 8 plus, in parentheses, a negative 3y. In this problem we have 3 numbers. 2 of the numbers have like terms. Like terms again have the same variable with the same exponent. So in this case we can combine the y's together. we have 7y and a negative 3y. When we combine those, the coefficients or numbers we can combine. 7 minus 3 would be 4. The like term or variable stays the same, 4y. And the plus 8 would remain the same in our answer. Variables and numbers we cannot combine. They are not like terms. They do not have the same variable. So our final answer would be 4y plus 8. And the final question for this section is negative 9r plus 3rs plus, in parentheses, negative rs, and outside parentheses, plus 8. Looking for like terms in this example, again we have to have the same variable with the same exponents. R is different than rs. They have to be exactly the same to have the like terms. But rs is the same as this rs. So the two rs terms we can combine together. In this case, 3rs plus a negative rs. There is no coefficient shown in front of rs, but if you want to, you can put a 1 in front to make that negative 1rs. And we combine them, it'll be 3 minus 1, which will be 2. And the variables, again, stay exactly the same. Next, we have negative 9r and positive 8. These, again, cannot be combined. They do not have the same variable. Normally in math, the variables, again, would go first in our answer. So we'll have negative 9r, and the number without the variable we'll put at the end, plus 8. So our final answer, 2rs minus 9r plus 8. Title of the next section is Simplify. Using distributive property. The distributive property is where we will distribute or multiply inside parentheses. The first problem is 2, and inside parentheses x plus 5, outside parentheses plus 3. To distribute, the 2 outside the parentheses will be multiplied by everything inside the parentheses. We will do 2 times the variable x and 2 times positive 5. If you multiply 2 times x, that would be 2x. And 2 times a positive 5 would be plus 10. And the plus 3 also comes down. After you distribute, you want to check to see if you can combine any like terms. 2x would stay the same. And the numbers 10 and 3, we can add those together to get our final answer, 2x plus 13. Second question, and last question for the section. Negative 6, and inside parentheses, x plus 2, and then minus 3. The number outside the parentheses, negative 6, again goes to the variable and also to the number. Negative 6 times x would be negative 6x. Negative 6 times a positive 2 would be negative or minus 12, and the minus 3 would stay the same. And again, to combine like terms, negative 6x would stay the same. Negative 12 minus 3 would be negative 15. When we have these same signs, we'll add the numbers and keep the sign the same, the negative. So our final answer would be negative 6 minus 15. Title of the last section today is Evaluating. Expressions. The directions or instructions for this problem is evaluate. When x equals 7 and y equals negative 2. First problem or first question is x plus 3y. To solve or simplify x plus 3y, we can use the values given in the directions above. In place of x, we'll put a 7, and plus 3y, instead of y, we'll put negative 2. It's a good idea to put negatives inside the parentheses to keep them separated from the other numbers. Again, when we have multiple operations like the previous sections, make sure always to follow PEMDAS. PEMDAS will do the parentheses first. The number inside the parentheses cannot be simplified further than exponents, and then we'll have multiplication and division. So we will multiply first, and addition and subtraction will be last. So 7 and positive 3 times a negative 2 would be negative 6. And for the answer 7 minus 6, final answer would be positive 1. Second question is 2xy. Solving this, the 2 would stay the same. In place of x, again the directions say x is equal to 7. And in place of y, the directions are y equals negative 2. In this question, we are multiplying. Keep in mind when you multiply from left to right. So in this case, we'll multiply 2 times 7, which would be 14. And the final answer, 14 times negative 2, would be negative 28. When you multiply numbers, if you have one negative number, the answer will be negative. And last question for this section is 4 and in parentheses x plus y. Again, the first step will be to plug in numbers for x and y. 4 would stay the same. In the directions, x is equal to 7 and y is equal to negative 2. Following the order of operations, we'll do parentheses first and then multiply second. 4 would stay the same. 7 plus a negative 2 would be 5. And multiplying 4 times 5 would give us the answer of 20. Title of the first section today is multiplying. Larger numbers. In this section, we'll multiply 2 and 3-digit numbers. The first problem is 8, and in parentheses, 306. So the first problem, we're multiplying 8 times 306. To multiply larger numbers, or 2 and 3-digit numbers, the best way is to take the longer number first. 306 has 3 digits, so we'll write that number first. And the number with the less number of digits, 8, we'll put that underneath 306. To multiply these numbers, we'll multiply 8 times each of the digits. 8 times 6 would be 48. The 8 goes underneath, and the 4 goes above the next number, 0. Then we'll multiply 8 times 0, which would be 0, and the number on top will add to that, which would be 0 plus 4, so the next number would be 4. And the last number, 8 times 3, would be 24, so our final answer would be 2,448. Second problem, and last problem for this question. 12 times 201. Again, multiplying larger numbers, the number with the most digits, it's easier to put that one first, 201. And the shorter number, 12, with 2 digits, we can put underneath. Multiplying, we'll multiply the 2 first by each of the top numbers. 2 times 1 would be 2. 2 times 0 would be 0. And 2 times 2 would be 4. To multiply the next number, we'll take 1 times each of those numbers. When we drop down, we need a placeholder though, so put a 0. And then we'll multiply 1 times 1, which will go in the second spot. And then 1 times 0 would be 0, and 1 times 2 would be 2. When we have 2 rows of numbers, we'll add these together to get our final answer. 2 plus 0 would be 2, 0 plus 1, 4 plus 0, and the 2 comes down. So our final answer, 2,412. Title of the next section today is multiplying decimals. In this problem, we will multiply decimals, numbers that have decimals. First question, 4, and in parentheses, 0.99. Same steps as the previous section. It is easier to take the number that has the most digits, or most numbers. We'll put that first, 0.99, and the second number we'll write underneath of it. Multiplying, we'll multiply 4 by each of the numbers above. 4 times 9 would be 36, and we'll carry the 3. 4 times 9 again would be 36, plus 3 would be 39, and again we'll carry the 3, and 4 times 0 would be 0, plus 3 more would be 3. So our answer has the numbers 3, 9, and 6. The last part's to put the decimal in the correct spot. Looking at the numbers we multiplied, 0.99, 2 numbers are in a decimal. 2 numbers are after the decimal point. The number 4 does not have any numbers after the decimal. So we have 2 total numbers inside the decimal, which means our answer has 2 numbers after the decimal. So our final answer would be 3.96. Second question, and last question for the section. 1.2, and in parentheses, 0.36. Again, it's easier to take the number that has the most digits, 0.36, and we'll write that number first, and the second number we'll write down 1.2. When we multiply numbers with decimals, you don't have to line the decimals up. It's best just to line the digits up. Multiplying the 2 first by each of the top numbers. 2 times 6 would be 12, and we'll carry the 1. 2 times 3 would be 6, plus 1 more would be 7, and 2 times 0 would be 0. When we multiply the next number, 1 times each of the numbers above, make sure to add a placeholder. 1 times 6, the 6 will go in the second spot over. 1 times 3 would be 3, and 1 times 0 would be 0. Again, adding these numbers together. 2 plus 0 would be 2. 7 plus 6 would be 13. Carry the 1. 3 plus 0 plus 1 would be 4. And the 0 we can bring down. So our answer has the numbers 0, 4, 3, and 2. The last part's to put the decimal somewhere in between these numbers. Going back to our original question, 0.36. The 3 and the 6 come after the decimal, so that's 2 numbers after the decimal point. 1.2, the 2 is after the decimal, so that's 1 number after the decimal. If you add up how many numbers are after the decimal, in this case 3, that means our answer has to have 3 numbers after the decimal. So our final answer would be 0.432. This word problem says the school librarian got money to buy reference works on CDs. He bought 3 CDs for $32.99 each. How much did he spend in all? There are 2 ways to solve this word problem. Since he bought 3 CDs at 32.99 cents each, you could add 32.99 cents each, add that number 3 times, and you get the answer. You could also multiply numbers like we did in the previous sections. You can take the cost of each CD, 32.99, And since he bought 3 of them, we can multiply by 3. And that will tell us how much he spent in total for all 3 CDs. Multiplying 3 times 9, that would be 27. Carry the 2. 3 times 9 again would be 27. Adding 2 this time would be 29. Carry the 2. And 3 times 2 would be 6. Plus 2 more would be 8. And 3 times 3 would be 9. So we'll have the numbers 9, 8, 9, and 7 in our answer. Keep in mind we want to put a decimal in this answer somewhere. 32.99, we have 2 numbers in the decimal, and 3 does not have a decimal. So we have 2 total numbers in the decimal, which means we want 2 numbers in our answer to be decimals. So 98.97, or the total cost is $98.97. Title of the first section today is Review, Distributive, Property. In these questions, we'll distribute or multiply the number outside the parentheses. First question is 3. And inside parentheses x minus 4. If you remember distributive property, we'll take the number 3 outside and multiply by each variable and each number on the inside of each parentheses. In this case, we'll have 3 times x, which will be 3x, and 3 times a negative 4, which would be negative or minus 12. So our final answer would be 3x minus 12. Second question and last question for the section. Negative 6 and inside parentheses y minus 3. This time we'll multiply negative 6 by each variable and each number inside the parentheses. Negative 6 times y would be negative 6y, and negative 6 times a negative 3 would be positive or plus 18. So our final answer would be negative 6y plus 18. Title of the next section is More Distributive Property Questions. In this section, we'll continue to look at questions with parentheses, which will distribute a number. First question is inside parentheses 9 minus 4n, and a second parentheses negative 4. In this question we have the single number that comes outside the parentheses on the right hand side, This negative 4 we can distribute into the parentheses on the left that goes to each number and each variable. In this case, negative 4 times 9 would be negative 36.